Welcome to another episode of Behind the Catch Fence. I'm your host, as usual, David Hoffman. Man, we had quite the weekend of racing this past week. I mean, the World of Outlaws sprint cars kicked off their season with a 4-night show at Volusia. USAC sprint cars got rolling down in Florida as well. And then we got this week. Gets even busier. We got High Limit Racing beginning their nationwide campaign across the country, starting at East Bay tonight. More USAC action is in store, asphalt late models at New Smyrna, and of course, it all leads up to the Daytona 500 on Sunday. I mean, do you smell that? That's the smell of burnt rubber, or for you Cologne folks who remember this, burnt rubber. I can't be the only one that remembers that Sunoco campaign back in, 2012? Something like that, right? Well, anyway, before we go off the rails, it's time for our latest guest. Today, we have RICO ABREU joining us. RICO is set to compete full-time with High Limit this year, along with a bunch of other sprint car races across the country. In today's show, we discuss where his love for sprint car racing began, the decision to join High Limit, and much more. So with that, strap in, relax, grab your favorite snack, maybe a Twix bar. I don't care if it's left or right, preferably left because I'm a lefty, and enjoy this episode with RICO ABREU. Yeah, so I just want to talk a little bit about your career, and then obviously, pretty epic season for you coming up here. So I guess kind of going into it, let's go all the way back to the beginning. Just for you, what kind of drew you to sprint car racing to begin with?
Yeah, so I had some neighbors growing up when I was in middle school that raced go-karts, and I started participating in some of their wash days after they would go race. And I was still trying to figure out, in my life what I wanted to do when I grew up, really, and really fell in love with, just the characteristics of the race cars and the speeds and going to a sprint car race for my first time in the early 2000s and just fell in love with a couple of the drivers and loved that fan interaction that we had access to, being able to go in the pits and seeing the Steve Kinzers and Jack Hoddenchilds and how approachable those guys were, and never really knew I had the capability of being a race car driver just with my shortness and stature. And then our neighbors actually helped us modify a go-kart. So it kind of all took off from there, and I was able to race quite a bit throughout the first stages of my career. Um, 2 to 3 classes a night, a weekend in at Cycleland Speedway in Red Bluff, racing go-karts, and then hooked up with the Kading family and got a sprint car built that I was able to race quite a bit as well. So really accelerated my learning curve getting all that seat time.
You mentioned just all of the sort of steps that kind of took for it. When did, I guess, during that whole process, did you feel that, hey, I actually could, make this into a career full time?
I think, as I developed and understood, and respected the sport and the race cars, I really understood that there's 2 sides of it. There's a business side and then a professional race car driver side. And and winning a couple races or coming really close, I made sure to really put in that extra work to understand what it took to win races and being wanting to be one of the best drivers and just be very really intrigued with the capability that some of the talents that came through the sport of sprint car racing and the direction it took them. So I kind of followed that NASCAR path, knowing that like if I did all my work and got better and better and better, I could possibly make it to be elite NASCAR driver. But that road kind of closed, as I went to each series, and it got a little bit more difficult financially to get to the next level. And understanding that it was more of, I feel like with sprint car racing, you have 2 crew members or 3 crew members and you, the driver. And so the just infrastructure is a little bit tighter than when you get to a stock car team. You start to understand that it's a little bit more difficult to make changes, or if you and a crew member or a crew chief aren't really meshing well, it's not just get rid of this guy and get another guy. It's you gotta work through those things, and I feel like I just didn't give myself enough time to to keep accelerating through the ranks of racing. And I really enjoyed racing sprint cars and non-wing sprint cars and midgets and all the cool open wheel cars that we get to race throughout the year.
You kind of mentioned with NASCAR, and it didn't quite work out. And you ran the full season in trucks in 2016. Just with that, I guess, what were some of the enjoyments with it? But then also kind of the drawbacks. You're kind of like, yeah, maybe, besides like the sponsor aspect and having the financial stuff, just what kind of was like, yeah, I kind of want to go back to sprint cars. That's where kind of where I want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing was just racing sprint cars. The group I raced with was really appreciative of the opportunity of racing with me. So that love feel that I had at the track and away from the track with the team, being able to participate with the team in everything outside of racing. So we become a real family when we travel. Racing 90 times a year. So I never really got to close in on that in the stock car world. I feel like it was super fast paced and it was more of like a just show up and drive style of racing. And it took me a bit to understand that level of racing and, wearing the ties and stuff to the races and the tuxedos and not tuxedos, but more so just dressing up. And I just wasn't really into that exposure. And I just wanted to go race as much as I could and understand the sport. And it just, if I did it another season after, if I did trucks 2 years, I feel like I would have understood things a little bit better. And it just didn't develop that way. And I never really forced the issue anywhere there and just went back to sprint car racing and am happily ever after doing it.
It's a good way of segueing with happily ever after. Just just kind of. I tend to get a variety of answers with this, but basically, I'm sure you've heard the term "wired differently" before, just with motorsports in general and the drivers. Just for you, how would you describe, I guess, what the term "wired differently" means to you? Just in drivers are wired differently.
Yeah, I think, that obviously just the braveness of and the fearlessness of being a race car driver, that dealing with the speeds and the fast paced racing, definitely it takes a certain person to strap into a race car and and run it as hard as you can around the racetrack. So it's not meant for everybody, but it's meant for everybody's enjoyment to watch. So it's it is a pleasure to and a luxury to be a race car driver in this position. And it's something that I wake up every day with a lot of respect for.
I'm fairly new to sprint car racing, but and the one thing that stuck out to me every time I go to the racetrack is the raw power, the raw speed that the sprint car possesses. Just for you, I mean, how would you describe just the nuances that a sprint car that you have to hop in every single night just kind of has that makes it different than a NASCAR or anything else that you've driven?
It's definitely a unique sport. Number one is the noise, how loud the cars are, with the open headers, the speeds, and the close racing. Our starts are double file starts, so every time we get a caution, we rack them back up and take off again. And they're quick paced races, so they're only 30 lap features, and so it's you got to make moves really quickly. You got to be on point, and it's cool to see drivers develop through the series and understand where they came from and then at me as a professional race car driver, always having to understand who I'm racing against out on the racing surface to just to know how to set things up or not put yourself in a bad position. So I get a kick out of it, just being able to do my homework and watch film and study and stay healthy throughout a race season to try to win championships, to win races. I just want to go win races and be up front consistently. And I feel like that's what people want to support when it comes to sponsorship side of things and build my social media platform to always present people the best merchandise at the races and online. So it's a long-term goal for me to get better and better each year. And I feel like it's never ending. So that's what keeps us all motivated to be better.
You kind of mentioned it just with kind of building RICO ABREU Racing, your brand, and just the marketing aspect of things. Just, I mean, can you describe just what all that entails to run a race team, run social media, run all these different things to not only just kind of have it there, but also to be successful like it has been?
Yeah, I enjoy it. And it takes an army to get to this point. We've definitely added on to our program, bringing Marty Mello on 90 on the marketing side to help accelerate things. Which allowed us to bring some major partners on with some big expenses. So it's important that we take care of people that are interested in the sport that haven't this is new money in this industry, and I think that's really important for our sport to see. People dabbling in and understanding if this is part of their market or not, and it goes a long ways, it's important for us as an organization to make sure we have a nice template to present these partners and that we fulfill that need that they're looking for. So it's two sides. It's the racing side, the performance side, which I've really focused on getting the right people together, and I feel like we're in a great position there. And on the marketing side, it's really important that we have the right people in charge and behind me to believe in me, to believe in my vision to take sprint car racing to the next level, hopefully.
And it seems like you kind of mentioned more money getting poured into sprint cars in general. Just there seems like there's a lot more buzz here recently. Obviously, you got High Limit coming up. You'll be competing full time in, and the World of Outlaws is obviously there, and just the caliber drivers across both sides. Just, I mean, how would you describe the current state of sprint car racing and just what you've seen, at a track, whether it's more fans or just stuff like that?
Yeah, I feel like it's really healthy right now, and I think competition is great when you get two series to work against each other a little bit and work together. And you see a split like this, it'll be interesting. The first year will be really big for both series, and then it'll be interesting to see the second and third year where it kind of develops. And I'm excited. I'm excited to compete full time for High Limit. And the flow subscription based stuff is really healthy. Dirt Vision is really healthy. So all of it is all good for the sport, no matter what negative energy kind of brings. If you sit back and really look, it's all energy that's being built up in this industry. And that's what we really want to see. And it just took time for someone to come up with a good business plan to put something together like High Limit. And I want to support my friends Kyle and Brad and Flo and what they're doing for sprint car racing. I think is really positive, and it's important that I fall towards that direction of the industry and help build it to be greater.
And I guess with Brad and Kyle is kind of running the show there in High Limit, just what have you seen maybe in the talks with them that kind of gets you excited to know that that High Limit and sprint cars in general, they're going in the right direction and it's only going to grow from here.
Yeah, the biggest thing is they've hired all the right people to manage a series where they can sit back and just go and go race really. And with from the race director side to the safety side, Kevin Nouse, Mike Hess, Kevin Nouse, Kendra Jacobs on the marketing side, flow behind them with their marketing power. I think there's a lot of steam behind a great series like this. So you want it to see it continue to be healthy and I'm not gonna lie, they're paying their payouts for their races are very appealing, and their charter system is very appealing for year number 3. So it'll be interesting to see kind of where they can sustain that business level, and if they can. And I think that's why when you see new blood in the industry and new partners bringing in wanting to be a part of something, I think that's the direction we fall towards. And we're just racers at the end of the day, and we just want to go race. And anybody paying a little bit more, you're going to chase towards that direction. And and the broadcasting that Flow presents, I think, is very appealing to for our sponsors and the viewership and how transparent they are about it all. And I know the last few High Limit races there was over 100,000 people watching. So that's those are big numbers for our sponsors to hear. And especially if we're really focusing on competing up front in these races and what it takes. It takes a lot, and it's a lot to maintain. But if you have all the right people in place, I think that's where you can really leverage that.
And final few questions, just after picking and choosing where you kind of race the past couple seasons, and just kind of doing the true outlaw type of thing. I know you'll be sort of doing that this year as well. Just, I mean, how do you feel chasing a title in a series will maybe affect the way you go about every night and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking at it as I think the first season for us, it's important that we make it to every race, and we just try to stay consistent in that top 12 and not have those DNFs. That's really what wins the championship. If you look through Brad's career, where he's so consistent is that he just doesn't he finishes all those races, and if something happens, they make sure that car gets back out on track. And we're working towards that. It just takes time. You can't just show up in season one and expect to be your champion either. So it's important for us to work as a plan and make it. And I've said it in the past I'm looking at this as a 3-year plan. Your first season, you work towards just making it to every race and being consistent in that top 12. And none of those and not putting yourself in position for a DNF. And it takes time to put a plan together like that. And like I said, it's us finishing those races is going to be a big key, and also focusing on just winning races. That's where you maximize your points is when you win races. And last year we were able to get 4 high limit wins, which is really important to us. And that's how we're going to go back into the season is just focus on winning as much as we can and being up front consistently.
And kind of going a little bit off topic here for the last couple, just I know you noticed you went to the Indy 500 last year. Just from your perspective, I mean, kind of being a fan, sort of as an onlooker, how would you describe just that event and kind of what you took away from being there, being kind of in the midst of everything?
It was it was awesome. Just to get to experience that, and I brought some friends and we were able to vlog it, which was cool to be able to present to our fans that we went to the Indy 500 and got to get right up to the cars and see them go around the track and just that fan interaction there. I mean, there was so many people there and they got there so early in the morning, and which was really cool to see how dedicated everybody is to that event. I'm always racing that weekend in Pennsylvania. So this year we took the race weekend off, and I made it a point to want to go experience the Indy 500 for the first time.
Do you feel like we could see you kind of in one of those cars at one point, or is that kind of a distant kind of dream sort of thing still?
Definitely a dream. You would just it would it, you know the only way I would do it is just to build up to it. I just think it's such a difficult event to be a rookie at, and but I never say no to any opportunity. So if it's the right opportunities presented, definitely we'd look at it.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode with RICO ABREU. I'm so intrigued just as to how this whole World of Outlaws versus high limit situation is really going to go this year. As Rico mentioned, a little competition doesn't hurt. I mean, it's interesting because as we start off the year, it almost feels like high limit is sort of on the offensive while the World of Outlaws are sort of on the defensive side here. I mean, High Limit has nothing to lose, first off. They're bringing in a fresh attitude with Brad Sweet and Kyle Larson running the show, and they're bringing in the money as a highly added bonus. And will the High Limit World of Outlaws dynamic run more cohesive as the year goes on? I mean, only time will tell. What I know for sure is more high caliber racing is a win-win for the fans, for just sprint car racing in general. Plus, sprint car racing is just darn cool, so I don't think you can ever get enough of it. Now, wrapping up the show, was there anything that Rico said that maybe stuck out to you? Let us know in the comments below. Oh, and make sure to go like and subscribe as well. We got a ton of content coming with racing back on just on a weekly basis. We'll be churning out more and more content. So look out for that. It's going to be really exciting, guys, where we go with this. So before I go, make sure to follow us on X and Instagram at Behind Catch. Thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate your support more than you know. It's really, really great to see this channel continue to just grow. Well, have a great day, everyone, and I'll catch you guys later.